Welcome to Garb Theater. So this year is kind of a big one for me. In a couple of months, I will be in my 4th decade. I'm not one of those people who makes a big deal out of celebrating adult birthdays, but you know what? Fuck it. Like after 18, like 40 is the best birthday you get, and it deserves to be celebrated fiercely. Also, several friends of mine, including my spouse, for reasons, spent their 40ths at home washing their groceries and learning to cut their own hair. So to make up for all the bummer birthdays that happened in the last couple years, I'm planning a group trip to New Orleans this summer so that we can all celebrate our big turns around the sun proper like. Can we afford this trip?
No.
Also, I'm filming in, hence the flannel life I'm living. And like any proper Midwesterner, I am impatient for spring like 3 weeks into winter. And since we hatched this plan for the trip, all I can think about now is just the hot, dank, stank, delicious nights we're gonna spend in New Orleans. And also, what the fuck am I gonna wear? So about that, lately I've been kind of obsessed with Art Nouveau and fashion from the 19-teens to the 1920s. And I don't mean this, I mean this. Ooh. It started with a rash of invites we got to Gatsby parties and like weddings in the before times. And me being one of those fuckers who loves to just like kill everyone's vibe, I did a bunch of research and thrifting, and I showed up to all those parties looking like this. But actually, in doing that research, it made me realize what a freaking renaissance that time period was relative to a lot of Western history. I recommend watching Abby Cox's video about it. She explains it way better than I can. Women's fashion around that time really spoke to me because compared to like just a decade before, the ultra femininity was tamped way down and a simple boyish silhouette was in, even though like women in pants weren't really a thing yet. Bonus, also, a lot of the silhouettes from that time are not super complicated to sew. All of this is to say, I want to create a look, a drip, an arrangement of cloth for this New Orleans trip that is inspired by that time period, and I also want it to be quick and easy. For this outfit, I want something cool and breezy for the NOLA damp, hot weather. So I'm thinking probably a dress, probably a black dress.
Brandy. You currently have 9 black dresses in your closet you do not wear.
That's not true.
As you no longer leave your home, or the clothes you sleep in.
I'm wearing clothes right now.
Would it not be a better use of your time to make something you do not already have?
Shut up, troll.
A curse upon your battery.
No. So as I was saying, a black dress that is light and breezy, shows off a little skin. My comfort level with skin exposure is my skin just doesn't get a lot of oxygen. Like, I mean, I hate the sun, cold all the time, ironically. I struggle with body hair removal, but 40-year-old me will be brave. So here's the plan for the actual dress. I found this tutorial for a 1920s inspired dress made from 3 large silk scarves. I don't do baby worm spit filament fabric. So I thought maybe linen would be a nice hot weather alternative. But since my life's goal is to be, it took me forever to find the perfect linen for this dress. So I finally found, sorry, my studio neighbors are here, you can hear me. So I finally did find the perfect striped, sheer, gory-esque linen. It was extra wide, so I thought I could squeak by with only 1 yard, so I could try to make this as cheap as possible. Apparently, the entire world supply of this kind of linen comes from like 1 mill in Lithuania. So my spouse and I tracked it down online from a store that had the most reasonable shipping, knowing full well it would probably take a little while to get in. But the order never came, and we never got any responses to like any emails. So we got a refund. So I found the exact same stuff from an Etsy store, and that came in like a week. The thing is, the package from the original order came in right at the same time. So we emailed the company to let them know so that we could give them money, and we still haven't heard any response from our emails. So I don't know. I accidentally got an extra yard to experiment with, which is kind of nice because this stuff came in like way stiffer than I thought it was going to be. And it's actually a dark gray, not black like I was hoping. So I'm going to see if I can try to fix all that. A lot of tangents in this video, too sober, a little stir crazy. So the plan. I'm going to take one of these yards and basically make 3 scarves out of it. I'm going to cut it into 3 pieces, and I'm going to use my rolled hem foot to hem all of the edges with black polyester thread. I'm going to attempt to wash the squares in my washer and then dye them. My thought is that washing them will hopefully make the stuff a little less stiff, hopefully a little more drapey, and hopefully this half bottle of black dye will be enough to make them black. I'm hoping also that hemming the edges will keep the fabric from falling apart during like the wash and the dye process. And I'm hoping that the polyester thread will keep the hems from puckering with all the heat and stuff. So after all that, I will pin the squares to my dress form and kind of configure how I want this dress sewn up. But if all goes to shit, I have a do-over fabric. Okay, here we go. All right, I got my fabric all prepared. Like I said, I want this to be quick and easy. So I'm gonna try something. Whew. So quick and easy, this is not so far. My rolled hem foot just kept shredding this fabric. So I'm just hand rolling it and running it under a regular foot. All right, I got all 3 of these things hemmed. And now it's time to wash and to throw in the dye pot. This picked up the black dye pretty nice. Here's the other stuff so you can see the difference. It's still a little bit stiffer than I'd want it to be, but after I ironed it, it loosened up quite a bit. So basically what I have now are 3 scarves that I made out of this length of fabric. They're roughly 32 inches square, and that's good enough for me. So on to the next step of the instruction, where I find the neckline and then sew the center seam. All right, let's try this thing on. So to be completely honest with you, I sort of slipped this on over my clothes yesterday, and I really hated it. I was prepared to just rip this thing apart and do something different with it, but I don't hate it as much as I did yesterday. There are some issues, like the side seam. I draped it entirely too far back. It's not the end of the world or anything like that, but it would be a little nicer if it was further forward. You know, the back kind of bubbles out a little bit, but this is a very drapey dress. I don't know. I don't really know what to do now. Like, what if it ended up being something kind of asymmetric like this? I think that we could save this after all. Good, because I really didn't want to rip this apart. Hi. Yes, I did actually change my clothes today. It's heckin' snowy outside, and I'm supposed to go bowling with a friend later.
You're lying. Your pits got visibly sweaty.
So anyway, I almost have all of these folds kind of sewn down and anchored in place. Instead of the strapping that I bought, I decided that I wanted a matching strap. So I'm going to take this leftover that I have from squaring up these panels, and I'm going to make some shoulder straps out of this and attach that, and then we're going to be done with this dress.
Space Pondok Kelapa.
Okay, so here's the thing, y'all. The dress is complete. Finished it, wore it a few times. It's breezy, it's comfy, it's everything I wanted in a sheer linen dress. Went and saw The Cure in this. Got a couple compliments, that was lovely. But here's the deal. I just don't think I like it. I don't think it's me. It's a little bit too, I think it's still a little bit too girly for my taste. Like the pixie hem just kind of reminds me a little more of like the 90s, and like I sort of feel like Paris Hilton's like dumpy dark cousin.
You love blood?
The asymmetry of it is fine. I'm just kind of not an asymmetrical person. I like symmetrical things, so that bothers me just a little bit. And just this fabric in general, whenever you have more than one layer, it gets kind of stiff. And I didn't have the courage to cut any of this because I was iffy about the design even when I was making it. I can just rip this thing back apart and I have 3 squares of fabric to work with again. Oh, I never showed you guys the back. There's the back. Got these 2 weird little floopy doops on it. So yeah, it's a little too swooshy and it's just a little too girly for my taste. So I'm just gonna start over. All right, look, this is what I'm thinking for the dress that's a little bit more me. If you couldn't tell by the rough drape I did on the dress form, I plan to take one of these 32-inch panels for the front of the dress and use another panel for the back of the dress, but I'm going to split the panels up the center and sew 2 together so I get sort of this upward facing chevron pattern, and hopefully that will even out the weird issues I was having with the other dress with the bias stretch kind of going all over the place. Now everything will be perfectly symmetrical. I plan to attach the front and back pieces together using just side seams. I'm going to use my natural bust measurement, which is 20 inches across. I'm going to start the top of the side seam just below my full bust measurement. Since this is kind of a barely bare dress anyway, I'm going to let it sit a little bit low. I think that should be plenty of ease, so that's why I'm only going with the 40 inches. And then the top of this dress, I'm going to attach to the body with a bondage collar that I plan to make out of this $2 Goodwill pleather belt and some hardware that should be delivered from Etsy today. I'm really excited about that. Everything will be detachable so that this dress is easily laundered, and I can switch up the bondage collar if I want to wear it separately. All right, I laid the 2 squares together and I roughly marked out the side seams, and I'm going to sew this up. So I have this pleather belt from the thrift store. It has a little bit of warping in it. I laid some books on it. I have enough here to do 2, so I'm going to try to use as much as I can over here. So if I screw this up, I have another length I can try again. So here is my idea. I didn't want to have anything bulky. I didn't want to have like a dog collar buckle in the back. So what I did is I ordered some purse hardware from Etsy. I have a twist lock like that. So what's going to happen is this twist lock is going to be on the front of the collar. It's going to go through the plate that mounts onto the collar, twists, holding the collar on my neck. And then I have these kind of crappy shower curtain rings that I bought because I need them to be hinged. So after I have this on my neck, this ring is going to go through here, and then the top of the dress is going to loop onto this. Then I can close it, so I will have a bondage ring on my neck. Hopefully this hinge will be hidden by the dress. Hopefully the top split part will be hidden behind here and it'll all stay in place just absolutely perfectly like I want. And that way I can detach the dress with no hardware attached to the actual dress itself, and I can launder it easily. And then on the back side, the closest thing I could find that matched, because I don't need it to open on the back, I just need to have a matching loop to hold the back of the dress up. The closest thing I could find that matched was this. So I'm going to cut this lock off and, I don't know, maybe save it for something else. And then this just presses right into the pleather. So I'll have another ring that goes through that loop there, and same thing on the back of the dress. So first thing I have to do is cut this lock off. Perfect fit. All right, now to cut the belt and get all this hardware on. And the edge of the pleather is not real pretty, so I still have some of this left over from the sandal revamp, which you will be seeing probably in the next video, to make this look a little less shitty. I cut this ribbon to fit exactly around my neck with no overlap. So I believe that how I need to have this configured is for the twist lock. The center of this twist lock needs to be right at the edge of where the ribbon would touch on my neck. And then same thing, there's another plate that goes on the other end over here in order to put the two pieces together, if that makes any sense. So here's more or less the finished thing with a ring that would obviously go here. I did a test fit. It fits pretty well. It's just loose enough that I can still breathe and swallow, I guess. So I'm thinking with the weight of the dress, it'll probably look just like I want it to. So you can see this is going to be the ring that holds the back of the dress. And then the ring that holds the front of the dress will go right through here when the collar is on, just like that. None of this hardware is like stellar, like it's plated nickel. This stuff is, you know, kind of cheap and crappy, but it works. And since this belt is pleather, the back of it is kind of like a suede-y fuzziness. So hopefully I can just leave it like that. If this metal irritates my skin, which it probably will, I'll glue a satin ribbon backing on or something like that. But now you can see the edge of the pleather looks kind of crappy, so I'm going to paint that real quick, hopefully make it look a little bit less obvious. Yeah, that's nothing about this is perfect, but I think that's a little more believable. We are almost done. I'm so excited to have this thing finished. So all I have left is to sew a loop down on the top so that the shower curtain ring can fit through here, and then flat fill the front seam, which I cut terribly, so that's probably going to be awful. And then on the back, I tried this thing on. I got to sew down that loop as well and flat fill the seam on the back. But before I do that, I decided that I do want to try to take it in a little bit tailor it just a little bit because it bubbles out pretty bad. And I should probably baste this and try it on again, but man, I just don't really feel like it. So I'm just gonna do that. I'm gonna flat fell the center seam and put the whole thing back together, and then it will be completely finished. All right, so that is it. Wrap up on this. Oh my God, my glasses are filthy. I'm real sorry. Okay, so here's the wrap up. This version of this dress I really love. I love a dress that's just like a little bit too edgy to wear to your grandparents' house, you know? Nothing I touch is gonna be perfect. This obviously is not perfect, but it is much more to my liking than the first dress. The only thing that I could not work out is this ripple right here on the front, and it's just gonna exist. It's fine. That's the only thing that I have a gripe about. Like everything else, even the back, like the back ended up fitting really nicely after I tailored this back seam a little bit. So if that's the only thing I have to gripe about is like a boob ripple, I'm doing pretty damn good. Like even the collar, I love how it came out. Swore it was gonna give me like a neck rash, but actually it's very comfortable. The hardware barely touches my skin. It doesn't bother me. The cheap shower curtain rings that I got, they're not the easiest things to snap on and off, but they do the job. And I think at least like from afar, they don't look too stupid. I didn't even have to put a satin ribbon liner on the inside of the collar. It just worked out. I did flip the collar closure around to the other side. Like this is how it actually opens and closes. And it's just because like in the front, the closure had a tendency to, instead of sitting straight, to kind of like sag a little bit because of the shape of my neck and the weight of the dress. But when I flipped it around the back way, it actually all leveled out very well. So problem solved. So this is my hot Ghoul summer look. Pure summer utilitarian. It's hot, it's sticky outside. Beyond just the dress, obviously I have short shorts and a bralette underneath to cover my no-no zones. The sandals that you probably saw in the reveal, those are finally finished. Those are coming up in a future video. And actually, the battle jacket that you saw in the first reveal, that is also coming up in a future video, so stay tuned. And then for accessories, I just paired it with these earrings that I wear more than anything else in the entire world. I think I picked them up on vacation once. My woven hat that started out life as one of those things you get in the outdoorsy hippie store. I spray painted it with the only matte black paint I had at the time, which was left over from painting my fireplace. So because it's high temp paint, it kind of leaves like a black soot on your hands when you touch it, but whatever, I'm not gonna redo it now. And the ostrich feather plume I bought from Danny Diesel from a burlesque competition I went to 1,000 years ago. That was way before I went vegan, so I'm just trying not to let it go to waste now. And then of course my beautiful serpent handle umbrella. It was a gift from my spouse. All of my best things were gifts from my spouse. I'm a very kept person, I suppose. In all of this, I hope exudes a little bit of gory, a little bit of Burton, maybe even a little bit of Brandy. I'm gonna mark this one a success. So if you would like to contribute to this channel at all, I can always go for a Ko-fi. The link is down in the description and also like in the channel bio. It only makes my work go faster because then I'm not having to wait to be able to afford my materials for my next project. And speaking of that, I'd like to shout out my longtime Ko-fi supporter once again, my sweet sibling Shu. Without Shu's support in so many different ways and just general knowledge of like garment construction, I wouldn't be able to do this channel. I'd be completely lost. So thanks for coming to Garb Theater. See you next time.